you're not okay. Hey, yeah, this is the podcast now.
Wow,
welcome.
We're here. We made it.
Yeah, amazing. So the idea is we'll probably have some kind of jingle, or something like a real podcast does.
Right.
But for now we're just.
Now we should just have a little cat toy and jingle the bell in front of our mics, and that'll be our jingle.
There you go.
We can just fart into the mic, like, collectively.
I got a tin can we can kick.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. I don't know how we're gonna kick that like into microphone range, but I trust.
You just gotta do one of those fucking Yakuza kicks and kick the can right into the mic, dude. Vinny knows what's up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down. I do.
Okay. Man, so we haven't really defined what it is that we're going to be talking about on this podcast.
No, we haven't.
I had originally thought, like, okay, one thing that we could think about doing is making it like a kind of reviews kind of podcast, because I know that we're all like opinionated dudes about stuff. But I didn't necessarily want to be like, hey, welcome to the reviews podcast, because it's like, we can just talk about any old stuff and don't have to like limit ourselves like that,
Plus, I don't think many people would really just want to listen to a bunch of random fucks review things all day.
I mean, you say that. I think we have some pretty good opinions, legitimately, because we're discerning folks, wouldn't you say?
I would
I
agree.
mean, I like anime, so my opinion doesn't really count.
Yeah, I mean, because okay, so like, I was thinking just before we were recording this episode, like, if we didn't have anything to talk about, we could talk about like fucking Jesus is King or something, because I think we all listen to that. I don't know, Vinny,
I don't.
Kaya, do you guys?
I
You guys
have
not Kanye fans?
I've heard it, but that makes only 2 Kanye fans here, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I
2 out
mean,
of the 4.
maybe that wouldn't be the best choice then.
Yeah.
We could definitely talk about Kanye, but I don't really have favorable opinions of him overall.
Oh man, that's. Sad
I'm a
to hear,
Kanye fan, and I don't even have favorable opinions of him most of the time, man. I don't even.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Man, what about BlizzCon? Any of you guys watched the?
Not been following it.
To that?
I watched a little bit of Overwatch 2. That's about it.
Oh, did they reveal that?
Yeah.
I haven't been keeping up.
Oh,
I was
really?
actively boycotting it, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really? Oh, because
but
of.
I am still curious.
Yeah.
Because Free Hong Kong, yeah.
Yep.
But I am still curious because I'm a hypocrite and I want to know what's happening with Overwatch 2. So.
Yeah, well, curiosity kills cats.
Those kind of boy cats never seem to last, honestly.
It's hard, man.
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of just a byproduct of the world we're in. You know, information comes at us so quickly.
And it seems like there's a heavier focus on being consumers these days, so you just always want the next thing, no matter what they did or what it is,
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to, because it's like nobody else makes Overwatch,
Mm-hmm.
One thing I thought was kind of interesting is all your progress from Overwatch, the first one that they did, is going to get carried over.
Really?
So all your skins, all the characters, you can, and even then, like, you can continue to play Overwatch and still get access to all the maps, all the new characters, everything like that. The only thing that's exclusive with the second game is PvE content.
Really?
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is I
PvE
thought it was
anyway?
supposed to be like a story-based thing.
Like, what is PvE?
Yeah.
In general? Like, player versus enemy? Like, you and some friends take on some NPCs?
Oh, okay. I was thinking that's probably
Shit
what
like
it
that.
stood for, but I thought maybe that was would be a
Yeah.
story mode or something.
It could be.
Yeah. Like, story modes count as that. Like, what you do in, like, MMOs, where you, like, fight mobs and stuff, is PvE.
All right.
It looks like there's going to be a story mode combined with what they're describing as, like, a Diablo-esque mini raids.
Damn, okay. That's definitely a step up.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems interesting.
Story mode would be really cool because there's a lot of lore, like, with Overwatch, and they don't, like, you kind of have to work to like, get at that, so, like, having an actual story mode would be pretty cool to see that. Like,
I just want them to make, like, a movie. That's what.
Yeah.
that would be so cool, man.
If they had, like, fucking
Don't give
Disney
me
level production.
raids. I mean, they do.
Yeah, like
they just
those
don't.
shorts,
they just
right?
don't focus on their animation.
Yeah.
Like, dude, the Blizzard shorts are legit.
Dude, they are, for real.
Agree.
Yeah.
I just want them to make a movie.
That would
That's
be
all
so
I want.
cool.
Well, they tried that. They went
they?
live action, though.
Ooh,
Live
really?
action?
When the hell did that
Oh,
happen?
God,
World
the
of
Warcraft
Warcraft.
movie.
Oh.
The movie.
I thought you meant
that's what you're talking
Overwatch.
about.
I'm like, the only live action
Yeah.
Overwatch
Sorry,
I've
no,
ever
I
seen
know.
is fucking on Pornhub, so.
Hell yeah, dude.
True, yeah. But like Blizzard, like they've tried, like they did the movie marketings and all that, the good stuffs with the films, and I don't know. I kind of am firmly in the boat that I don't think video games translate well to movies.
I agree, man.
It's hard. I think the hardest thing about it is that there's usually too much in a video game to get out in one movie. Like, because the campaigns tend to be so long and involve so much like relatively mundane stuff. Like, there's no way to in a movie be like, and then he marched from Azeroth to wherever else and he killed 10,000 little fucking dudes along the way and completed quests. It's like that doesn't factor into like the way that a movie is structured.
But then again, I don't think you really need to show all of that stuff
Warcraft.
either, too. There's a lot you could cut out.
Yeah. Oh, man. Did you guys actually see the Warcraft movie?
No.
I didn't.
No.
I've honestly never had like an interest in Warcraft at all, so...
So literally, we are all talking about the Warcraft movie, and none of us have seen it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Dude, opinions based on nothing.
Welcome to the internet.
That is exactly the internet.
Hey man, I need to have a fucking degree to have an opinion on something. All right, I don't need to see it. Fuck off.
Just tell me what it's called, vaguely what it's about,
Yeah.
and that my
Yo,
opinion is formed.
Let me see a trailer,
shit,
dude. I'll tell you
I don't
all
like
about
that
it.
thing.
I'm not sure I even watched the trailer for that.
I think I did, but I don't remember much.
There were green people, and there were tall people, and there were people with teeth.
Oh shit, so
And they
it's like
went
Willy Wonka then.
Yeah.
World of
You can say
Wonka
that, yeah, I can
craft.
see the.
Okay, I mean, I'm sold. Ship it.
I can see the parallel there.
Okay, so I was just thinking about like what you're saying about like video games don't translate well into movies, and I think that maybe one that you could do would be like Portal. You could probably make a good Portal movie, I think.
I think so. That could work.
I think you could
Yeah, I
make
could
a
see
good
it.
movie
Yeah.
in the universe. Like, maybe if it was about GLaDOS killing all the scientists in the beginning before Chell wakes up, that could be a really good movie. But I don't know about the gameplay elements translating very well, because most of the game's basically platforming
Right.
and being verbally abused by GLaDOS.
Yeah, I fucking love GLaDOS, dude.
Fuck yeah,
But,
man.
I don't know. I feel like it could work. They would just have to introduce, I don't know, like some kind of, because like there's no like the only enemies you face really are just little like robot turrets for the most part. I mean, GLaDOS is like the main thing, but I mean like in each level it's really just like turrets and shit.
Yeah, it's.
I
you're
think you would
almost
probably
playing
have to
against
add
yourself,
more.
really, because it just depends on how
Yeah.
good you are.
So I think
They
to
could-
translate it into a movie, you would. I don't know. I think they would have to introduce something else. Like.
I think it would probably be like a good psych thriller.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
can see
would.
that. Plus, I always think the atmosphere of Portal 2, like that would be an excellent movie because you could do so much with the cinematography of it, the empty labs and the older buildings up way underground and everything. Like, I would love to see that.
Mm-hmm. Plus, you also have that little fucking ball like following you around and stuff too to kind of, you know, it's like you're not alone
Oh yeah,
doing the whole
yeah,
thing.
that's right.
Yeah. The little fucking ball from Halo Forge. Follow you around.
I don't know, man. I feel like I would like to see more adaptations of.
Dude, Metal
Like
Gear
video
Solid
game
would
stuff.
be such a fucking cool movie, dude.
I mean,
Yeah,
that game
for
has
real.
like 2-hour cutscenes, doesn't it?
I know. Yes, it could work though, dude. They could totally do it. They could fucking do it. I
Especially
wish
since
they
a
would.
lot of those cutscenes, like half the dialogue is almost fucking like gibberish, so you could get rid of so much
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, you can kind of streamline it, but the story is so cool, and it's just like, it's basically James Bond, but like way cooler than James Bond. Though.
Yeah, because it has a lot of those like Cold War Soviet era feelings to it too. A
Yeah,
lot of
man.
that spy tension.
Yeah, dude, it's such a fucking cool like world. It would be really cool to see
Before Cesar left, though, I like what Kaya was bringing up about video games having potential to be adapted, because it always does seem like something like Resident Evil. It's fairly straightforward. The plot should be pretty easy to adapt. There's lots of action, but yet they just totally change the source material and drop the ball completely.
Yeah,
like, those movies
completely.
are absolute fucking garbage, and they could have been so much
Dude,
better.
I agree. I agree,
Can
dude.
I-
Like the thing about I just wanted to mention one thing about the main character of the fucking movies, dude. Just like the fact that she's basically invincible. Like,
Yeah, dude.
totally just that's the main
And
thing.
they're
Like,
always
I
giving
don't
her
like
fucking
that.
superpowers too. Like, she's
Yeah, it's
basically
fucking
God by
bullshit.
the end.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking bullshit, man. Like, that's totally not what Resident Evil's about, man.
I have to say, though,
huh.
one of my guilty pleasure movies is the first Resident Evil movie.
Oh, for sure.
No, I would say I like that one the most. Yeah.
I give him a pass up to like the third one.
I think I saw the second, and that's where I trailed off.
Yo, but okay, so like when she's fighting, what was that big motherfucker called? The big ugly dude that she like fucking fist
The
fights?
Nemesis?
At the end?
Yeah, that's bullshit, dude. She's like punching him. Like, are you kidding
Yeah.
me?
Meanwhile, how many people
Dude.
shot him through the fucking movie and nothing happens?
Yeah, you can't punch, dude. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. You can't punch him and win. You can't do that. Fuck off, man. Give me that survival horror shit back,
I love
dude.
your enthusiasm about this.
Cause it's bullshit, dude. Resident Evil is like this.
I just imagine you on like a soapbox on a street corner somewhere going, Resident Evil is bullshit, man. I gotta tell the world about
yeah,
it.
with a megaphone. I'm collecting donations. Please boycott these movies, even though they've been out for a while. Don't watch them if you haven't seen them. Just continue not seeing them. Play the games instead.
I know you probably had no interest or intent in watching them until I just like brought this up to you, but don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. Resist the temptation. Resist.
Hey man, I just went out and saw that movie that you told me not to see.
I know it came out like 5 years
Get
ago.
the fuck out of my face.
Not bad. Hey, just say it's not half bad.
And then
Get
he
the
just
fuck out
murders
of my
you
face,
right
dude.
in front of like a dozen witnesses.
I will say though, and I think in the first movie, that like hallway with the lasers
Oh
and
my-
shit.
Yes.
Yeah,
that shit
dude.
was dope.
Best
That was so
fucking
cool. Yeah, like one of the best scenes in the whole fucking series of movies. That shit was so
I
cool.
used to play this. It was a mod for Half-Life 2 called Zombie Master, and it was basically like half RPG, half first-person shooter. One person would control the zombies and the traps and everything, and the survivors would be like the FPS players. And somebody made the best fucking Resident Evil map out of that level. Like all the massive doors locking you in. You had to deal with the Red Queen. The laser hall was there, and
Oh,
man,
man,
it's like
that's
some
cool.
of the most fun because like you could lock the fucking players in and then time the layers to just kill all of them at once. It was the most satisfying thing.
Oh man.
Did either of you ever do Halo 3 Forge?
Yeah.
Custom
Nah, I
zombie
didn't.
maps.
Yes, of course, dude. I did. I was all over that shit, dude. I ate that shit up.
Yeah, dude.
Me and my buddies would play that all the time. We would, dude, there were so many good maps, man, that people would make. That game was a lot of fun.
I feel like that's missing in a lot of games these days. Like, it doesn't feel like there's as much customization.
Dude,
Or, like, thriving mod
I
communities
agree.
either. That was some of the most fun of playing Half-Life in general. Like, literally the reason I bought the game was for the mod community.
oh no shit, I think the first time I played Don't Tell the Feds, but I totally torrented it when I was a teenager. I know this is going, like,
Dude,
this is being
now
recorded. I
we're
don't
all
know
going to
if
get
it's gonna be
arrested.
uploaded
It's
or
your
not,
fault,
but
man.
I know. Oh, it's not. You're not going to get arrested. I'm the one who did it.
I mean, now I'm like an
I mean,
accessory after
you
the
can
fact,
lock me up.
man. Come on.
You can lock me up, but, you know, you can't make me unplay the game.
Ooh,
I already beat
damn.
it, so fucking
I
joke's on you,
personally
dude.
do not condone pirating of anything ever. Now that being said, I may have or may not have pirated Portal the first time I ever played it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Not admitting to anything in particular, but I do remember.
Let's see. You want to go through and just come clean now? Just name off all of the games we pirated over the years.
So back in 2001...
Man. Do you guys remember when pirating games used to be hard? You had to
Honestly,
look up
no,
like
man.
cracks and stuff.
I never had a problem finding
Oh
cracks.
yeah, I mean I remember how. Yeah.
Honestly,
But like now, you can literally just you just torrent it and it just works and that's it.
it's like the opposite.
like it used to
experience for
require
me now,
multiple
though. Like,
steps.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
I
What you
can
mean.
never
Yeah,
find
like you
fucking
had to
working
know
crack.
what you were doing, and now it's literally
Right.
just a Google search and you're good.
Yeah, and you open that fucking crack software up, dude, and it just starts playing
Yeah.
fucking jams, dude, like
And you
way
can't
too
even
loud.
fucking turn it down, dude. And then like half the
Yeah,
time
you
shit doesn't
can't. You
work.
have to just turn your master volume. Yeah.
So you're just sitting there listening
You
to
have to,
some
like,
horrible
disable your
anime
fucking-
song while you're fucking downloading 30 viruses to your computer.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like you would always have to disable your antivirus so like it wouldn't just automatically delete it as soon as you finish downloading it.
Back in the Warcraft days, we had really shit internet, and my dad was like, "Kaya, these updates for your game take forever. I'm gonna help you with that." And I'm like, "Okay, what's this magic you're gonna do to increase the speed of the internet?" And he goes, "I'm going to torrent the update."
Oh my
Wow.
god.
200 whole
Because it
megabytes, Kaya. That's too
Because
much.
it will, because it will be faster than this bullshit. And I'm like, okay, Dad, I guess you know what you're talking about. You're an adult.
That's some fucking 4D chess.
He was
right
locked
there.
up.
Yeah, the hacker music starts playing.
And
then he
then
was
one day I
arrested.
log onto my account, and I have a fuck ton of ore that I did not collect.
Fucking come up.
Oh my god.
And my mining skill had been maxed somehow. And I was like, huh, what the fuck? And I get logged out, and I'm like, oh, this is an issue. And yeah, I lost my account.
Your dad was
Lost my
farming while
He
you
was
were at
actually just
school.
playing the long con.
He was
and
boosting
wanted
you,
you to stop
yeah.
playing that goddamn
Yeah,
game.
Dude, that would be a fucking 200 IQ play.
Yeah, dude,
What
for
that
real,
would
you're
do,
getting your
that's
son
exactly
banned.
what he did.
That
This little
dude,
piece of shit.
that's the kind of moves that we're gonna have in our
my house.
arsenal.
I can't do this anymore,
Like,
son.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to play video games instead of studying? How about I pay a Chinese booster to play on your wrong time zone, and then Blizzard will ban you? How about that
Okay,
shit?
but
Like,
I
dude,
remember that
instead of
actually
just-
happening, dude, some fucking kid was addicted. I forget what video game it was, but the father ended up actually hiring an in-game hitman to permakill the character, so he lost like 3
shit.
years worth of fucking stats
What?
and items and
I
shit.
remember that
Yeah.
story.
Yo. Oh my god.
Oh man. All those fucking stories of like man dies playing Warcraft, hadn't got up from his seat in like 6 weeks is like,
Oh.
come on, dude.
It's like 6
Yeah,
weeks
just
is
fucking wow.
amateur hour. You gotta go at least 12.
Right.
He wasn't working on it in the right conditioning.
No.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Though that does bring up an interesting question about like game addiction in general and the validity of that. I know, like in South Korea, there's actually like full-on like clinics for video game addiction.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, there's like laws and stuff too. You can't be on. You can't play like some MMOs after like a certain time. There's like a curfew
Wow.
on it,
No, that's actually crazy. I didn't
so that you
know
gotta
that.
stay up
Wow.
all night. Yeah, because I remember I used to play MapleStory when I was a kid, right? And that would have like a little thing, like a little like in-game message pop up that would be like, "You've been playing this for 3 hours straight. That's too long. You have to get off the computer now."
No, did it actually?
And I
boot you,
remember
or
reading
was it
that
a
and being
warning?
like, no, it didn't boot you, but it was like a warning.
Oh.
It would tell you like every hour. And after
Oh, wow.
and after a few hours it'd be like, "Stop playing now." It's like, I'm not fucking
You're
doing
not my
that.
dad.
Dude. It did the same shit in like Metal Gear Solid 4, like during the loading screens and shit. Like Snake would be smoking a cigar, and it would just say like, "Hey man, like it's like a little tip, you know, during the loading screen.
Mhm.
Just hey, like make sure you take breaks. Like don't play
Well,
this game for
that's
too long.
only
Yeah,
because they
You
didn't
take
want
breaks,
you
like,
to
every
actually
couple
get
hours.
to the end and realize that the game wasn't finished.
MGS4?
Oh no, I'm thinking of
Was
thinking of
MGS4
5.
not
I'm
finished?
sorry.
What are you talking
I
about? You're thinking of
I
Phantom
totally
Pain.
botched that one.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Phantom Pain wasn't finished. MGS4
I
was fucking great.
honestly never even finished Phantom Pain. It was it just didn't feel like a Metal Gear game.
I mean, you're not missing much. It's a good game, but not a good Metal Gear Solid game.
But yeah, back
You know.
back to what we were saying about video game addiction. I think that's like a really fair point because honestly, like anything can be an addiction. It's just a matter of your personality traits and how you use coping mechanisms. So I think it's very valid. You know.
Hmm.
I think it's exactly that. Like the things that you use for coping is what you become addicted to. Like if there's ever some activity or something that you're doing to be like, let me just not think about anything else. Like that is something that can easily become very detrimental to you.
And especially something like gaming where it's clearly built to actually kind of monetize how you play a game and how you spend longer and longer amounts of times in it. Like, obviously, every time you level up or you beat a boss, it's like a little dopamine hit, so you want to just keep playing and keep playing and keep playing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and even like microtransactions too. Like it's like instant dopamine. Like you just spend the money and then you get all this cool shit. Like you don't have to work for
that's
it.
the fucking worst part of it, because that's like,
Yeah.
they combined
Yeah.
gambling with video games. It's evil,
Exactly.
dude.
Right.
I mean, it's just been ramping up like crazy. Like I think it was
Yeah.
mostly like WoW that started that, because before that there were no like MMOs, and so games were just like you would just play it and that was it. I mean, okay, I guess that's actually not true, because there were like arcades and shit, right, where you would like
Right.
it would try to get you to spend as many of your quarters as you could. playing
Yeah,
this
but
Oh, yeah.
obviously you're limited to how much money you have, and you have to actually go there.
Yeah, but I think WoW was probably the first game to like try to have you spend as much of your time playing it as opposed to just your money. Because obviously it was like subscription based, but like even outside of that, it was like encouraged to play for like basically as much as you could to like grind out all the quests and do the raids and stuff.
I guess that does make sense considering the subscription model. Like the longer you played, the more you'd be invested in it, and you'd want to keep subscribing. So I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's also like spending the money for the month too. It's like you kind of are like, you feel like you have to play it to get your money's worth, you know? Because if you just spent money for the whole month and you don't play it, it's like you just wasted some money, you know?
Exactly. And then over the course of that playing, either you start having enough fun to where you're like, yeah, I can play for another month, or you get to a point where it's like, well, I don't want to like lose all my items and shit, so I guess I'll just like, yeah.
Or you're just like, this shit sucks, and I'm not giving you any more money. Uninstall.
Yeah. What was the first game with microtransactions? Do you guys have any idea?
Oh,
Jesus.
I don't know.
Because that's like a recent thing.
I would imagine it would be like a Call of Duty kind of game, though. Skins or weapons.
What was it like? I think it might have been like a mobile game, you know? It might have been like Candy Crush or something that was the first one
about
to be like...
Counter-Strike, right? Didn't they start doing that?
I think they just joined in after the fact.
I mean, you can't really call them...
Because pretty much every game on Steam started doing that kind of thing.
I mean, a quick Google search just says the first known instance of randomized loot boxes started in 2004. Maple Story?
Oh, wow.
Oh, of course it would be.
Maple Story, yeah.
Dude. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember Maple Story. They would have the gacha tickets because every single fucking Korean game in the history of the world has gacha as like one of the fucking things.
Yeah. Well, Japanese games are just as bad too. Fucking, their mobile games are pure cancer.
Yeah.
Take that from somebody that spent about 6 months hooked on one of them.
On a mobile game?
Yeah, it was like a rhythm game that was based on an anime, and that shit was addicting.
Oh.
Okay.
What one was it? What the hell was it called? I know
Love
what you're
Live
talking
School
about.
Idol Festival.
It
hurts my soul to even say that out loud.
One.
Yeah. I love my cute anime girls though, man.
Can't argue with that.
I don't know, man. It's like mobile gaming is shocking. Like, I think the problem with it is that it's like too hard to make a good game, and so it's like just that much more incentive to make like just a cash grab kind of thing.
I'm not sure I'd buy that though, because I remember even back in about 2012 when I had an iPod Touch, they were able to port like GTA 3 to it, and it was fully playable. So I feel like it's probably just a matter of what's easiest to make and how much money they can make out of it. Because the hardware is definitely capable of running a more complex game, you know?
I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, the hardware certainly has been getting a lot better. But like, what mobile game have you seen that is actually like oh wow, this is like a really good game that was developed for like mobile?
I'm not really sure because I don't play a ton of them myself, so I couldn't really name one offhand.
Yeah, like I don't think I'm in that market either. I think the thing is
everybody has a phone, right? That was the Blizzard thing from last year. Don't you guys have phones?
Yeah.
But I think mobile games are creatively viable as not supposed to just marketly viable, right? Like I think that there's actually a good amount of potential. I don't think people have really figured out how to do it, because it does seem like everything's pushed towards like getting as many transactions out of you as possible, as opposed to developing an actual like fleshed out game.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where I was trying to get at, but obviously I didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
It seems like there is the ability to make a good game, but there's not really much incentive for a developer to do that when they know they can just microtransaction the fuck out of you and make a ton of money really easily.
I think part of it is the audience as well, because it's like the audience of people who are looking for like a really good, satisfying game experience will have other ways to play that game, and it's like like a phone's hardware has gotten much better over the years, but it still doesn't compare to like a console even. And so it's like if you have like a really good idea for a game that you want people to appreciate, why wouldn't you just make it for like the Switch or something instead, where you're going to get a lot more people who are looking for that kind of thing?
I think the answer to that actually comes down to the way you physically have to interact with the device. Because like a Switch, you have all your buttons and joysticks and whatever, and you have that real feeling. With this, you have what, like 2 points of contact, really?
That's pretty fair.
You know, you don't have any peripheral buttons. You have a camera which could do like cool augmented reality shit. But like other than that, like you just have like your screen.
That's a good point, actually. I guess Pokemon Go kind of qualifies for that, right?
Yeah.
Like that is like an actually legit game, if somewhat neglected, that has been like a mobile experience.
And I was thinking too that I'm sure there's a lot of indie developers that could make some pretty satisfying games that don't require a lot of points of contact or a lot of controls. Like, I could imagine playing something like Super Meat Boy on my phone even. Like, it doesn't have to be a super complex game, it just requires a little more creativity, I think.
I feel like there's this game that I played a while back. I think Square Enix published it. It's called The World Ends With You, and it's basically like it's an RPG, basically like turn-based. It's not turn-based combat. The combat's really interesting how they did it. Like you can like run around this little area, and like there's these different little like buttons that you collect, sort of like Pokemon, that give you different abilities and shit. And like you kind of have to like either tap the screen or like swipe and to do all this crazy shit to do different attacks. And like that, I don't play games on mobile usually, but this one game specifically was like it actually like interested me enough. Like it's nothing I've ever played like on a mobile fucking. What I'm saying is it's very interesting.
That sounds
I'm tripping over my words here, but like that's like the only game I've played on mobile that was like actually very interesting and like really cool to me, to where I played it like pretty much all the way through.
Now I'm gonna have to fucking look into that, because I haven't played a really good mobile game in a long time like that.
Yeah, like they made it available on Switch, I'm pretty sure, too, but yeah, it's on mobile, you can get it. Okay. It was a pretty good game.
Okay, so I was watching a video a couple of days ago that did have an example of like a cool game that was developed for mobile, and I couldn't remember the name, and I found it. It's called Dandara, and it's like a kind of dungeon crawly kind of game, like a platformery kind of game that was developed for like a touch screen interface, and it looks really interesting. Basically, like instead of jumping, what you do is you like there's no gravity, so you just like zoom from one wall to the other and stuff, and it's I mean you'll have to like look up videos of it and stuff, or I'll post them in the Telegram, but it's a really interesting example of like how this kind of like different interface can be used, which, to go back to what Kai was saying, when you were talking about like the different ways that we kind of interact with these things, I think that part of the reason why a lot of mobile gaming tends to be more focused on like the shorter kind of like more Candy Crush type things is because your phone is kind of something that you A, always have with you, and B, tend to take out for like short periods of time, right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
As opposed to like a console or like a PC where you like sit in front of the thing for like an hour or two to like actually do that.
Yeah, pulling out your phone and playing a game, it's more like I have nothing else to do.
Like
with
you're
the
in a waiting room
kind
or
of thing
something
right now.
Yeah,
it's not a time commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And so to put like a sort of more thoughtfully developed, shall we say, game onto that would be like, just go sit on your couch and just pull out your phone and just stare at it for like 2 hours. It's like, but I have a much bigger screen. Like if I'm gonna be just sitting down and doing that, I might as well be doing it on my computer where I have like,
But then again, though, handheld gaming has been a thing for a while, like at least as long as I've been alive.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yes.
So it just kind of seems like the same would apply to that. I think you're right. I think like how and where, we play games like dictates the type of game or the type of development. Maybe I don't know. My thought's not too.
I wonder too if it's something about the margins that come along with making an app. Usually, I would imagine that the teams are a lot smaller, and obviously, you're not going to be doing AAA sales on a phone app. You'd selling your app for like $2 or $3 most of the time. So you probably can't even really hire the staff necessary to make a really complex, involved game and still have it actually be worth the time and have it be profitable in any way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the reason that you have those microtransactions too, is because it's like it's just a small amount per like instance. It's just the nickel and diming here and there of like oh, it's just 99 cents here and like
Right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
As opposed,
I think. Sorry.
no, I was gonna as opposed to spending like $25 on a game or something. It's like on my phone.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So to kind of come at it from the other side,
Mhm.
games like Super Meat Boy, Stardew Valley, Fuzz.
I totally forgot
Mhm.
Stardew Valley's
Fez,
on phones
yeah,
now
Fez.
too. Yeah.
Oh,
dude.
is it?
Oh, that's
No
pretty
shit. I
cool.
didn't even know that.
Yeah, I did not know that. My point was going to be that these games had either one developer or two developers. Specifically, Stardew had
Wow,
one
I didn't know
developer.
Mhm.
Super Meat Boy has two developers. Fuzz. Fez. Thank you.
Right.
That's what it
Yeah.
was.
Mm-hmm.
One developer. Like highly successful games.
Undertale too, right?
Yeah.
One guy.
Yeah, Toby Fox.
Toby
Uh,
Fox.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, really?
Was that just one
Oh,
dude?
really?
I think it started out as one person. I don't know too much about that game. I'll be perfectly
Yeah.
honest. But
Me either.
I was under the
Yeah,
impression
there's
that it
like
was one
6 or
developer,
7
I mean,
of
at
those
least at
games now,
first.
so they have to have other people working on it.
I know.
I mean, that's one of those things that just took off, man.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's
Yeah.
crazy because the concept is like so limited. How do you get fucking 7 games out of that?
No idea.
Oh, Minecraft.
yeah, of course.
Original.
Famous. Yeah.
I was saying before too that it seemed like the phone is ripe for indie game development. So that's a really good point that these small teams can actually make games like that. That's why it kind of surprised me that you don't see more of it.
Maybe part of the problem, and this is just total speculation here, but maybe it's like there's just kind of not really the platform for it. Like there's no like Steam on your phone where you can like easily track these things down. Like you kind of just have to go through the App Store, which as far as I know is not great for really finding these kinds of things. So it's like if you publish an indie game for like iOS or Android or something, it's like how do you properly disseminate that to somebody? Because like on PC, you have Steam, you have like the Epic Game Store or something, and it's like if you release it on Xbox, it'll be like in a store or like on the Xbox Live or PlayStation Network or something. But like it seems like it would be harder to find something among the absolutely unbelievable sea of apps that exist for like mobile devices.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think saturation is definitely an issue.
Yeah, with anything these days, it's just unless you have a massive budget behind you, it's so hard to go viral or even make something that's brand new and doesn't have an IP behind it actually take off like that. Unless you have like a meme potential to it or something. It's just so hard to
Hey
compete.
man, are you talking shit on Squid Games?
Oh,
we're gonna make
fuck
this happen.
Yeah, I'm
all right?
talking shit, man.
Me and Carla, we're working hard. Okay.
I'm talking out the side of my neck right now, man.
Yeah. I wish I could do that. That's cool. Dude, I'm really excited to see like what the fuck Carlo like. I'm not sure what because so like I'm in the chat, right, but I'm not sure exactly like what he's making like exactly. Like it looks very cool, but I don't know what it's gonna end. What his end goal is.
I haven't even opened that chat in so long. I literally have like 500 unread messages, so I have no fucking clue what's going on in there.
Oh jeez.
Dude, I love that chat. Me and Carla just talk
it's
about
really
like the
interesting.
craziest fucking game ideas that we may or may
like
not.
I do
ever make.
redo that shit. I don't like say anything in there really, but I lurk. I read what you guys are saying. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of making games just because I love playing games. Like obviously, and so it's like to. I don't know. I guess I'm just like this is the kind of person that I am. That it's like I want to make something that I want to play, and it's like I always have these like little things whenever I play something. It's like I wish it was a bit more like this. I wish it was a bit more like that. And it's like fuck it, just let me make the thing. I'll do it.
Yeah, that's honestly like the best starting
yeah,
point
dude.
though. Like you want to see something in the world, and you're the one to make that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have a couple projects that I'd like to get working on next year, and hopefully hopefully with Carla we can get some stuff published on like Steam or something. That would be pretty awesome. But
dude, that would be incredible.
be awesome,
Yeah.
man.
We definitely
I'm
need to
really
get
looking forward to
Carlo
it.
on the next one of these because I feel like he would have a lot of interesting things to say. Like
he's a very busy
He
man.
would.
Is the problem?
Yeah.
I guess that's the price to pay when you're talented as fuck like him.
Yeah. Plus, he works like a fucking dog as well.
Yeah.
Damn, he's out here chewing bones and sniffing buttholes.
Yeah, I mean, basically, dude.
He's also got a very
Yeah,
cool
yes, he
mustache.
does.
Oh man.
Yeah, I could also say like that parallel just like with music too. Like before I started writing, like that's how I felt about music. Like with certain things I listen to, I'd be like, oh man, I wish I would have done this, or like I want to do something like that. You know?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of feel that way too, but the problem is that I'm not very good at writing music.
Same.
See, that's how I feel like. So like that's how you feel with music, dude. That's also like how I feel with games. Though, like I would love to be like a part of making a game, but I have none of the none of the requirements. I don't know how to
You
fucking
should
code
combine
or
your
any of
fucking
that shit,
powers.
you know, but it
You
would
could
be
do
really
the
cool.
soundtrack work, Vinny.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm always
dude.
saying. Like that's like the only thing I can contribute at this point is like I'll write the music.
I mean, you
but that's
say
all I
that
can
like
do.
it's not much. That would be a huge help.
I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely down to do it. I've always wanted to have like write music.
Yeah,
for
and I mean,
video games.
contributing
I
ideas.
just wish
and
I could
stuff
help
too.
more.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's always good to have like more perspectives when you're thinking about things.
Mm-hmm.
I think a keynote on all of that is there's. I think when it comes to like to creativity, how do you? Okay, the question I think I'm trying to form is how do you determine what is too much input? How do you, like, where do you draw that line?
Like
you know
too
what I
many
mean?
cooks in the kitchen, you're saying, right?
Yeah, like,
Okay.
cause it's good to get a lot of information in. You want to know as much as possible,
Right.
and flesh out, and because don't want to be in an echo chamber. I'm sorry, my brain's kind of scattering.
No,
but,
you're good.
But I think what I'm trying to say is there's diminishing return, right? Like there's a point where it just doesn't end up working, and how do you, how do you figure that out?
Yeah, I mean, my thought for that personally, like as relates to my idea, I don't know, like I wouldn't try to speak for anybody else here, but like is it kind of like it's not so much about the amount of input that's coming in as much as like how much of that can directly influence what comes out. Like as long as, okay, so I guess what I'm trying to say is like as long as I'm the one who's doing the thing, right? As long as I'm the one who's going to be coding it, everybody else's ideas are just ideas. Like I'm ultimately the one who decides what's actually going to go into it or not. And I think that kind of helps to mitigate the idea of like, oh, I have too many, conflicting things coming in, and it's like, well, but ultimately I'm the one who decides which of those have value to what I'm doing.
I think that's why
It's not like in Hollywood. Sorry to cut you off, just to finish this idea,
fine.
but like, it's not like in Hollywood where people are making like movies by committee, and it's like everybody has to agree on what's going to happen next. It's like, well, no, this is ultimately it's my project, and I'm the one who's going to pick which of these things I like the most, or parts of different things to go into it. And that's my thought.
Right. You don't have like people that you're paying, like people on payroll that like you kind of have to.
Yeah, exactly. Like
like you kind of have to make them feel like they're fucking contributing something.
Yeah, I think that's why there's normally like a pretty clear division of labor. I remember one time in the gaming chat we were actually kind of talking about like that kind of thing, like why don't people hire more workers when they're making a game, like a company like EA that burns their employees out and overworks them and pushes them to their breaking point instead of just hiring more people.
Yeah.
And I remember Cesar brought up a point that was similar to that, saying that basically at some point there's too many cooks, and I think it's pretty easily solved by when you divide your labor up and you have the creative team that works on the ideas, you work on the plot, the art direction, and everything, and then you basically have, for lack of a better word, I would say the grunts that do the coding and the animating itself.
The developers.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess I equated developer with creative.
Those chumps. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
With bottom of the barrel,
Yeah.
you mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about it's about like
Monkey like
trying not to
trees.
get in each other's way.
Mm-hmm.
Because like this is it's something that comes up on Reddit and stuff all the time, right? When people are talking about like PUBG, they're like, oh, why don't they just hire more people to help fix the server? Like, it's like, well, because that's not how it works. Like, you don't just like have more people and that makes it work more better. Like, it's the people who know how the project works are the only ones who are going to be able to fix it. Otherwise, you're just throwing like more sideways things that in the end you're going to end up creating this monster that nobody is fully aware of, like how all of it fits together.
I mean,
And that's not
Like
helpful.
Frank-
that's a
monster.
pretty
Yeah,
likely
exactly.
outcome, but I feel like it also depends on the team too. Like if you have a team that properly documents what they're doing and they have an actual set plan, then it would probably be a lot easier to bring somebody in and
like
look at the whole thing
and stuff,
say, I see what direction you're trying to take this, and be able to fix it from there.
Right. But if you try to bring in 20 people to do the same thing, it can be a bit much.
Yeah, so I think it really just comes down to organization, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, a game like PUBG, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing with that, and it's taken them like 3 years to really get it sorted out.
And it still lags. Man, that makes me so sad.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I think maybe a key overtone to all this is the difference between an idea man and someone who can get it done.
Yeah.
Because everyone can have like good ideas, but not everyone can implement those ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like ultimately you can only really interfere at the executive level in a bad way. Like at the ideas level, I say just throw them all in. Throw them all in, hear all of them out, see what's good. But when it comes time to do the execution of the idea, you have to have like a clear vision of what's going into that.
It's actually funny too that you brought up design by committee, because it made me think about how anime in Japan is actually always done by committees. You have your producers, you have the people who wrote the source material, be it like a manga or a light novel or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You have the people that are actually putting the money up. So you have these big teams working on this tiny project that's maybe like 12 episodes long, and it's why a lot of anime comes out being really generic and following a lot of the same tropes, because at the end of the day you're trying to make like maybe 100 different people from 3 different companies happy with the final product, and a lot of it turns out to be a fucking mess. So I think it's a pretty clear example of that.
Man, I have such a problem with things like that, but it sucks for something like anime where it's like it's just such a tremendous amount of work that you can't easily have like an indie team of being like, let's just make our own indie anime. It's like you can't. Like there's too much that you have to do.
And it just costs so much money
get that
too.
Done. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it sucks.
It's a shame too, because I think animation is capable of doing some of the best visually stunning art there is. Like there's so much you can do in that medium that you can't do in a traditional movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anime has actually produced some of the most visually stunning works of art, I would say.
Oh, man.
I mean, maybe this is just like a hard 180, but guys want to talk about ableist slurs in language?
Okay, sure. Well, okay, go ahead. I feel like you have something to say about this.
I don't.
Hell yeah, dude. Hey, man, you want to talk about this thing that I have nothing to say about? Sure,
no,
dude.
I have opinions of it, obviously. I don't know how to, like, start that, though.
No, you could just go for it. Like, we can, like, jingle transition to it.
All right. I actually believe it's in some contexts it's perfectly okay.
I actually agree.
Wait, what's okay? What are you talking about?
The premise is in some contexts it's okay to use ableist language, or I don't want to say any kind of language because it really depends on the group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shit. Sorry, I just completely mucked that up.
Did you
saying it's okay to say
point within like a
sometimes.
single sentence?
Right.
Yes. Don't worry, I'm waking up slowly.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it's okay to say, in this case, ableist slurs or use ableist language if the context you're in permits it. So the group you're talking with has established that, X, Y, and Z is okay. These are boundaries. Don't cross those boundaries, sort of thing.
Sure.
And if ableist language isn't a part of that, then hey, you're good.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's like, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
I mean, generally, just don't try to be offensive. I think the obvious thing here is that technically this is a public discussion. We don't know whether or not this particular episode will actually be posted anywhere, but in theory, this is public.
Yeah, true. I wouldn't consider this a private conversation at all.
I do want to reference this one time I was hanging out with some of these guys that somebody I work with knows. Like, we were all hanging out, and like, it was just a bunch of white dudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were all like just casually throwing the N-word out, like soft, but just like, dude, they're all white, just saying it to each other, and no one bats an eye. Like, it's just in that group, it's okay to do that, I guess. You know, it made me very uncomfortable. And it was really weird to me. You know, but amongst them, it was just a normal thing they just do, man. They just throw it in there when they're talking about stuff. Fucking blew my mind, dude.
Yeah, it's weird, man.
It's really
the way
weird.
that like different people communicate and stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one in.
That's character, dude.
Yeah, I'll be sure to just cut silence around that on both sides, just so you can get it really clear.
All right,
Yeah.
sweet. I appreciate that. Something that's interesting. So I work in the trades, and it's a very right-leaning industry, to say the least.
Yes.
Mhm.
And you know, just standing around talking with like a couple of my coworkers, and this like one dude is like running a job site, and then they're just talking about like, you know, I guess like guy stuff, like, oh, I hooked up with this chick, you know, oh, hey, I made out with actually this, like the story was like this guy who's like on the job site made out with like a chick who like works in the office or whatever.
Okay.
And then he was saying like, oh no, like afterwards she was like, hey, do you want to do like make this a thing? And he's like, no, I don't want to fucking like mix work and, you know, personal life. Like, that's fucking bullshit. And then he goes, Dad, and also she's fucking Puerto Rican, so I ain't gonna fucking do shit about that. And everyone's just like, yeah, fucking Puerto Ricans. And it's just like, oh, okay.
All right, dude.
See, I thought that was honestly going to be a lot worse, given where you were going with that. I mean, not that that's not still bad, but...
yeah, I mean, like, it was just kind of like, I don't know. It's very obvious. Like, sometimes, you know, oh, fuck,
What's interesting? Sorry, I should cut you off.
No, please cut me off. My thoughts are. I need to wake up.
But
Cut the mic.
What's interesting to me about those kinds of stories is that it seems so clear listening to the story. But if you were to ask those people, like, oh, like, do you think that was like a racist thing to say? They'd be like, no, of course not. And it's this interesting thing where it's like, with something like racism, there's this kind of weird like internal double standard that people have for it, where it's like everybody everywhere basically acknowledges that like racism is wrong, including people who are racist. And so their defense is never like, oh no, racism is okay. It's like, no, this actually isn't racist. Like, I'm still on the other side of this thing.
You always see a lot of justification too, like people that are racist towards one group or another will say, if they have a friend that's black or something, they'll say, oh, well, you know, he's one of the good ones. He doesn't really count. Like, people set their own boundaries and their own justifications for who even counts for that.
But it's so interesting to me because it's like you would think that there would come a certain point where somebody who is like racist enough, and I mean, I guess there is that point where you start talking about people like way on the alt-right and stuff, but like where it would become a thing where it's like, no, I mean, like, you know, I'm racist and that's it. But that kind of almost never happens because it is so acknowledged by everybody that that's not something that you're supposed to be.
This is anecdotal.
And so it's this interesting thing where it's like where people are, even though people are starting to act more racist, it's like people still haven't gotten to the point where they started to think that racism is okay. If that makes sense?
I understand where you're coming from, but I've definitely met the type that will just flat out tell you, oh, fuck yeah, I'm racist. Like,
yeah, I mean,
my new coworker, literally within the first 2 hours of working with him, me and my other coworker were talking to him, and he just casually brought up that I'm fucking racist. I don't like black people. I don't like Spanish people. This person, that person, and he was, he actually sounded pretty proud about it. Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, there are certainly those people, but for the majority of people, that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, right, I think the majority of people tend to not want to wreck their outward social life, right?
Exactly.
Well, the funniest part about it too is that he's actually half Native American, and he openly wears hats with like Native pride and everything on it, and he says, "Oh yeah, I always play the race card, so they know that I have it harder." Like, it's funny to see the cognitive dissonance to that kind of thing, you know?
Dude, he sounds like a caricature, man. Doesn't even sound like a real
the most
person.
ridiculous person I've ever met, but that's an aside.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is definitely a thing. Like, you can get very sort of carried away with it, and it's important to remember once you get to that level that these people aren't always like honest. I want to say like it becomes a thing where it's like you get to the point where you just start saying outrageous shit just because you can, not necessarily because it actually reflects anything that you think or believe. Like, okay,
though.
No, please.
Yeah, just a quick little side. Though at a certain point, it's irrelevant to what you actually think or believe. Your out projection might as well just be this. Yeah.
Yeah, we are what we pretend to be, right?
Yeah, like there's two sayings that I've kind of carried. I can't remember one off the top of my head right now, unfortunately. But it's no one will ever hate you as much as you hate yourself. Okay. Because no one will ever know as much as you know about yourself. Right. Unless you're a complete narcissist, in which case you love everything about yourself, no matter what. Hi-ho diggity.
Okay. It's a little grim, but I'll take it.
I like the use of hi-ho diggity. That's definitely underrated.
Yeah. Yeah, keep that card in your pocket for future reference, dude.
Yeah, dude.
And the second quote?
So you couldn't remember it?
Oh, yeah. So
no,
I didn't hear you say that.
No, that's fine. I kind of wish I kind of wish I was more awake for this. I feel kind of bad because I'm kind of only coming off with like half thoughts.
Nah, dude, it's cool.
Hey, at least you weren't the guy that dropped the R-bomb
dude.
on the first podcast.
Hey, man. Yeah, fuck that guy.
I know, right?
Yeah, I can't believe that Arthard would say racist in a podcast.
Yeah, can't say that racist word, dude. Everybody knows that.
Okay, hang on. I didn't actually get to finish what I was saying earlier.
Which
is that I when I was younger, I used to spend some time on like 4chan and stuff, right? Which is a place that every cynical young man must visit at some point in his life.
Yes, sir.
If only to see how much less irrational he is than the other people who inhabit the internet. But
then B.
But I mean, and so
yeah.
But the thing that you see there is a lot of this kind of quote unquote ironic expression of like a lot of bigotry just in all directions, like racism, misogyny, all the homophobia, transphobia, and fuck me, I don't really remember what it is that we were saying earlier, but I remember that it related to this point somehow, so I'm just gonna try to see if I can spin it all together. But it's just kind of crazy to see how you can become the kind of person who never really takes anything seriously, because 4chan kind of, when you're like, okay, what am I trying to say? In like threads on 4chan where people are arguing about stuff, which generally they'll find a place to argue about anything, you kind of get to just say anything that you want, and that makes it easy to say things that you don't actually think. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. People on 4chan are very harsh. Like they just say the most outrageous shit just because they can. There's no social repercussions
I think
at
there's
all
an element of
all
like
anonymous.
rebelliousness to it too. Like maybe they don't necessarily believe the things they're saying, but they're saying it because it's outrageous.
Right. Yeah, and
just because they can. Really.
Yeah, and the thing is that I think that it starts that way, and I mean certainly that is the way that I was when I first went there. But kind of as you start to spend more time in a place like 4chan, you start to realize that it kind of isn't. Like, it kind of is a lot more serious than people act like it is. And it's like, man, it's kind of weird how all of these people who are pretending to be racist seem to also actually be racist. And it's like, I don't know to what point the joke is just so that you can pretend like you're not.
Well, the thing about that to me is that I don't believe they actually think they're joking, but it seems more of like a layer of defense, the irony. If you can say, oh, well, I don't actually believe that, I'm just joking because the N-word's funny, and that's why I said that. They probably do truly deep down feel that way, but it gives them an out if they can say that.
It gives them an out with other people who call them out on it, and they can be like, no, dude, I was, it's all just jokes. And it also gives them an out with themselves when they say some outrageous shit, and they're like, but I didn't mean it. But seriously, though.
Yeah. So it's a way to never really have to have any kind of self-awareness about it. You can just be a despicable human being and say anything you like, and still feel like deep down that you're the good person, you're the hero of the story.
Exactly. Okay.
Right.
I think that's where I was going with this whole thing. Is like it's weird to me how so many people on the right seem to kind of pretend like they don't believe what clearly they do. Right.
I think okay, so I was listening to actually like a live stream or something. They're talking along these lines, and a big thing is the actual strategy for recruitment in these fascist neo-Nazi-esque parties.
Yes.
Is to obfuscate as much as possible. And I think I kind of mentioned earlier, but like the Mott and Bailey is pretty much their go-to tactic.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, okay. So the Mott and Bailey is a kind of like an obfuscation debate tactic thing where the Bailey being my secret point that I hold to myself, the Mott being the point that I put out there. So Jordan Peterson is an example of this. I will make like all these claims that suggest that women shouldn't be allowed in the workplace, and I don't approve of that. But if you were to call me out on it, it's like, oh, no, I never said women shouldn't be in the workplace.
Oh, that is such a pet peeve of mine, dude. In every online discussion, that phrase, I didn't say that.
Like, yeah, but you're implying it. But yeah, but I no, I'm not. I'm just saying that look, there's obvious differences between men and women, right? So thus, yeah, I'm not really being sexist. I'm just pointing that out. Okay, but your ought claim, your implied ought claim is that women ought not to be in the workplace,
that's right.
Or that blacks are in fact inferior to whites, or XYZ.
Yeah, it's this thing where it's like part of the structure of the argument is like pretending like you don't know how language works, like pretend that like only the most literal interpretation of the exact words that I say can ever be used against me. Like, you're not allowed to look even one implication deeper into what I'm saying, even though that is the way that human communication actually works, is that you say one thing and there's layers within that.
Yep. And I think the best thing that has ever happened to that kind of argument has been the invention of the internet. It is, okay, and this might just be me and my ineptitudes, but I find it very hard to sometimes sift through what could be like implied tone. Like in letters, you can kind of do this by capitalizing in certain ways or punctuating in certain ways, kind of thing. And speech, this is just a natural.
Speech is so subtle; it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is it's
like one's analog, one's digital, you know? Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't. I mean, you can translate it, but it's difficult, right?
Yeah,
right.
It's much easier
to
to pretend like you didn't mean something when you're not looking somebody in the face. It takes a lot of fucking gall to look at somebody in the face and be like, I wasn't saying that, like, you know, whatever. I hate women. I was just saying that they're irrational and that they can't make good decisions. And then to have to look another human being in the face like you're not completely just spouting bullshit.
Did you ever see the video? It was this. I think it was at the Charlottetown rally or some shit like that.
Charleston.
It was this. Charleston. Thank you. Sorry.
No, you're good.
This dude was like, you know, doing his quote unquote protesting, you know, and he gets kind of, the guy with the camera kind of corners him conversationally and like kind of just like breaks him down to the point to where she tries to like he like walks away, but he like takes off his like the hat and polo I'm not a racist outfit. And like tries to blend into the crowd and goes, dude, where are you going? Like, you just like, you know, this isn't good. This isn't working. We can clearly like
I can still see you.
We can see you.
Oh man. It's a crazy world we're living in. This next year, 2020, for the record, in case someone's listening to this in the future and it's not clear what year is coming next. This is gonna be a crazy year, man.
Yeah, this is I don't know what's gonna happen, and I can't make any predictions on it.
I know that Chinese proverb that's basically an insult says, "May you live in interesting times." and we're definitely in them because it feels like every time I turn the TV on, there's a riot or a protest in Hong Kong, or Chile's falling apart, or Brexit in the UK is getting pushed through, and Blade, and everything that's going on in America. It's just a constant flow of rebellion and upset. It's hard to tell what directions anything is going in anymore.
People are angry, man. It's kind of nice to see because people should be angry.
Every time I see somebody actually step on the streets,
people should be angry and they're
good.
not. Yeah, exactly. It makes me upset when I feel like people should be upset and they're not. And so to see it now where it's like people are upset, I'm like, good, they should be upset.
And that too, like,
there's a lot to be upset about.
A lot of people say, older people, they talk shit on millennials and Gen Z. Oh, you're not capable of doing anything. You just sit on your ass and you're a keyboard warrior and this, that, and the other thing. It's nice to see that, that's never been true, and that our generations are capable of actually stepping up and making our voices heard and actually trying to make a difference in the world.
Dude, Generation Z fills me with so much hope. You have no idea.
Fuck yeah, man.
I fucking love these kids. Like, it's crazy.
That too, and I remember you bringing up a point about millennials kind of, we didn't quite grow up with the internet. It was introduced into a lot of our lives pretty early on, but it wasn't always there. And Gen Z, it's just always been the reality. That's been their entire life. Has been social media and the internet and memes, and they really have such a much better handle on how to communicate, not just with themselves, but with the entire world. It's so much easier for them to spread a message and a point and just make their voices heard.
Yeah. It's like they kind of like, they're like savants of the internet. Like, they know how to make the meme that will spread without like any trial and error. It's like crazy. Because, I mean, we saw memes happen. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember being on like UG and stuff.
Oh yeah,
where
I remember back
first
in the
it was like
days, I'm a fire in my laser and stuff.
Yeah,
Dude,
all that stuff, and you get like the demotivational posters, and then like the rage comics, and slowly it became, and then you had like the advice animals, and that became memes. And imagine like just growing up with memes, like literally just all you ever say is a meme.
Yeah, it used to be a meme was an actual. It was a specific image or a quote or something, and now it's broadened to be literally almost anything, like the original definition, just being a piece of culture that gets passed around from person to person. Now a meme is just a picture with words on it, or, it could be literally anything.
Yeah.
I find memes so fascinating. I know a lot of people are like, oh, memes, but it's like, it's actually such an interesting form of like communication, where basically what the meme is, it's the template. And it's the template with like infinite different variations that you can make. And the Gen Z thing is being able to spot the template, being like, that's a good one. That's a good one. You can use that for a lot of things. Spread it around. And man, it's crazy. It changes so fast. Like,
yeah, it does, dude.
That's one of the best parts about it too. It's just, you can actually see an idea morph in real time. You can see where it starts from, and then how it gets picked up by people or the media, and then what it eventually becomes. That's part of why I've always loved memes too, is because you can actually see thought develop.
And dude, all the different layers and stuff. Like, as a meme becomes like, it starts like original, and then it becomes ironic, and then it becomes like doubly ironic, and then you end up with stuff like
instantly. You know immediately what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite subreddits is r/bonehurtingjuice. I don't know if you guys browse that. That it's one of my favorite things. I don't even really know how to describe it, but it's like editing the meme template to make it as like logical as possible, so that like I don't know. It's you guys will have to go look at it, but like it's this interesting thing where it's like triple layers of irony of like, you have to be already familiar with the template and the kinds of jokes that are made, so that when it's played straight, it's funny. And it's fascinating to me because of how it is simultaneously very simple and also very sophisticated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. Another thing I was gonna say is like just the way like you can kind of just like connect with complete strangers, like just because of fucking meme space. Because there was this one time, right? Like I was at some place getting a haircut, and there was this other dude who was around my age. Like, it was pretty hot in the building, and I was wearing my coat because I was about to go outside, and I think like the cashier, like whoever was cashing me out, made a comment about it, like just kind of like small talk or whatever, and then this dude behind me just out of nowhere goes, "Man's not hot," and I was like, "Yo!" And then I was like, "Yeah, man can never be hot." And like we just fucking bonded over that dude. Like the lady in front of us had no idea what the hell we were talking about, but like, we were both giggling and like we had that connection. And it was so cool, man. It was so cool.
And we all know that reference.
Oh man. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh man.
I actually don't know that reference.
No, the fucking
quick maths.
dude who raps. Yeah, quick maths. Fucking.
Skrrrra! Pop pop.
Pop pop pop. That guy.
We'll have to show you, man. Oh Jesus.
Yeah, dude. Ah, it's so funny, man. Oh man. It's a good time.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because that meme is what 2 or 3 years old, and it already kind of feels like ancient
Pretty
history.
old, yeah.
That I haven't thought about that in so long with everything else that's happened and all the new memes and all the news.
Yeah.
Everything just moves so quickly. You never really get a chance to catch your breath with it.
It is
Right.
it is so fast. It's one of a weird experience on the internet for me is seeing and understanding a meme that I don't know what it's referencing. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you see a meme pop up and then you see it a bunch of times and then you get it to the point where you could start using it, but you don't know what it came from.
I totally understand what you're saying. Like I really can't think of a specific example off the top of my head, but
Like
you kind of pick up the context
Yeah.
immediately and you know how to use it.
Right.
like the first one that comes to mind for me is the Me and the Boys meme.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the
Yeah.
fuck that is.
Dude, me either. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and I didn't know what the fuck it was, but I knew it was funny. Like I laughed at it, but I had no idea like what the hell it came from, dude.
So maybe this plays into it a bit. There's like this thing we do where we copy behaviors without actually knowing why the behavior exists to begin with. So like the classic example is the test was they took a bunch of monkeys, put them in a cage, put a banana on top of like a stool or a ladder or something.
Yeah.
Every time the monkeys went for it, they would shock them or spray them with water or whatever. Eventually, the monkeys would prevent the other monkeys from going for that banana. Over time, they would replace the monkeys with new monkeys until all the monkeys in the cage were not the original monkeys, and they would still exhibit the behavior of not going for that banana because they were taught by the other monkeys not to do that without even knowing why.
Exactly. And so you get the weird thing where like some of the monkeys are like they're stopping the new ones from doing it even though they've never received the shock themselves.
And that's really
So it's just like no, we don't do that.
yeah, that's almost kind of how culture is formed and traditionalism. Like that's
exactly.
how we've passed things
Right.
down since the beginning of time to each other.
Yeah. There's a similar study that was done on pigeons. I don't know if you've heard of this one where
Yeah, I've heard of pigeons.
they first they first very funny.
Very common bird.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought you wouldn't have heard of them. They're everywhere really.
Right.
But no. So they're set up in this like little cage where there's a button that they press and they get like a treat, right?
Yeah.
And so then there's like a variation of this of like when they press the button, there would only be like a percentage chance that it would happen. So it would basically happen at random when they hit the button.
Mm-hmm.
And what they noticed is that the pigeons who were part of this experiment would start to exhibit strange behavior because they would like they would tie in things that they were doing to the test as though they were causal. So like for example, like if a pigeon like was like scratching its wing or something and then it hit the button and the treat fell out, it would start like scratching its wing every time, right? And this is it's supposed to be like the evolution of like a superstition, for example. And so some of the all of the pigeons would have like different little rituals that they did that they had associated with the event of this treat coming out. And so some of them they would like spin in place and then they'd hit the button or you know whatever thing it was that they had developed. And so it's like an interesting thing to see of like how your mind can relate things outside of what is necessarily causal, just based on like how you experienced it.
Yeah, humans are very much pattern seekers. We're always looking for a connection that maybe is there or maybe isn't. So it's pretty cool that they can actually even see that in an animal that's comparatively simple, like a bird, a normal pigeon.
Yeah.
Right, and I don't know if you guys do this too. Like, I know a lot of people sometimes have this thing where like you have this like little quirk where if you don't do it, you don't feel like complete. Like if you walk into a room and like you normally, I don't know, you normally like take 2 steps and then hit the light.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's this weird pattern. Like sometimes I'm trying to think of something. Sometimes I don't know. It's really weird. Like I'll at work, right? Like we get these papers that we have to write the orders down on or whatever.
Right.
And like I drive like an electric pallet jack around and it's got a rack, and if I have 2 papers, right, I stick them to the rack, one for each pallet.
Right.
I always have to stick it on the right side first. Like that's where the first one goes.
Yeah.
In my head, it has to go there. If I do the left one first, like I feel kind of off. You know, like it's kind of weird. Like you kind of feel like off put.
Yeah.
Like it was supposed to go here, and I put it over here, and now like it's fucking everything up.
You develop like these behavioral
You know?
systems.
Right.
And it's these kinds like those are the kinds of things that like when that system gets like really like intensely out of whack, like that's basically what OCD is, right? Where you get people who are like,
right.
oh no, like when I walk into a room, like I have to like open and close the door 3 times, or it'll like just like haunt me, like I won't be able to even function after that.
Yeah.
But I mean, because you like human beings, because as a subset of all animals are habit forming creatures. You know, we have things that we do in certain ways, and you get so used to it that like it just becomes automatic. Like,
right.
I'm trying to like think of like a sensible way to phrase this, but like.
If I remember right from my psychology classes, it's basically something called a schema. Even when we're little, it's you learn a certain way to do something or a certain way to behave, and that pattern gets ingrained in your mind. And it's one of those things where you don't even really have to think about how to do it. It's just a part of you. So I guess that would probably be like the closest way to describe that.
Yeah, and okay. And it gets very set in that way as well. So like, if you're used to doing things like in a certain order, it'll like you'll notice very much if something causes you to break that.
Yeah, and
or
even if you end up doing everything exactly the way you're supposed to anyway, even though that pattern was interrupted, it just in the back of your mind it feels like something's off, like you did something wrong.
Yeah, like it. Exactly. Like it's not so much about the result; it's about like the way that the process plays out. Has like an order in your mind that it's supposed to be.
Nah.
Right. Even when you like when you're putting your pants on, right? Like everybody has that one leg they put in first.
Yeah, and you do it that way every time.
Opposite way.
It's not. It's like it's not random. Like you have like at one point you decided, like I put my right leg in first, and that's just what I always do.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, dude. It doesn't make it's really weird. The same thing like with your shoes, which one you put on first, and like. Which arm you put through your shirt first?
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say it's probably like an efficiency thing. Like it's probably more like an efficient use of like your mental energy to just be like this is just it, and I don't have to think about it. So I always will just do it this way, even if it ends up that it maybe not the optimal way or something like that.
That and people very much like having a sense of familiarity too. Change is always a scary thing no matter who you are, so if something's been working for you for the longest time, you're not just going to go out of your way and decide, oh, well, I'm going to put my left leg in first this morning, you know? Even if it's trivial.
Yeah.
I put my left leg in first when I feel attacked.
You should be, because I'm going to attack you.
I think I do also.
All right. What about you, Mike? You
left guy, I don't know. Probably right. I'd never thought about it before. I've never
thought
about it before this moment. I just put my pants on.
I'd have to like take off my pants and then put them back on to like confirm. But I'm pretty sure it's left first.
I would say I'm probably a right leg first guy though.
Really? Okay, see, I'm left leg, left arm when I put my shirts on, fucking left foot in my shoe first, everything is left.
Let's settle this then.
So you put one pant leg and then one sleeve, and you just walk around with half a shirt and half a pants on?
Yes. Yeah, I actually cut everything in half, so like I kind
excellent.
Yeah, dude, it's really dope actually. I'm kind of trying to get it to take off culturally.
Are you guys left-handed or right-handed? Because maybe that has something to do with it.
right-handed.
You are? Yeah.
I'm right-handed. Yeah.
So I guess I'm the weird one.
Do we have
then.
any lefties in the group? Do you guys know?
I thought we had a couple
Don't
of them,
think so.
honestly.
I think
couple
JD
of
might be.
But
left-handed,
maybe I'm
but
just
don't
like
quote
mixing
me
you
on
guys
that.
up with my work, because we have
I
a
don't know.
weird amount of fucking lefties in my job. There's like 4 or 5 of them out of like the 15 of us.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
That's really disproportionate,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Left-handedness is one of these really interesting things. Just to just change the topic.
That's alright. I
but
think we spent enough time on the last one.
Sounds cool.
No, because it's really interesting because it's the kind of thing that doesn't really seem like it should be important. But on the one hand, A, it's really rare, and B, it kind of seems to show up in strange places. Like, to me, the most unusual occurrence of the like left-handed bias is when you look at U.S. presidents, actually, where literally for like the last 30 years, every single time a left-handed U.S. president has run for office, they've won.
Huh.
Like every single time. And the only time that they've ever lost is when they were against another left-handed candidate.
What the hell? That's
And
fucking crazy,
like,
dude.
if you look at
What?
the stats for like the last like 30 years of elections, the only time there's ever been a right-handed president is when their opponent was also right-handed.
Dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
We're
So like
definitely
Obama
controlled
was
by lizard
left-handed,
people.
George Bush was left-handed, Bill Clinton was
Yeah, right.
left-handed. Like, it's crazy, dude.
Yo, it's like we're Pokemon, dude. Like, you know?
It makes me wonder if there's literally like maybe there's something different about people's brains that are left-handed. Maybe they're somehow more ambitious or just capable in some respect that makes them able to
Well-
see things that way.
My brother is left-handed, right?
yeah.
And he ain't doing
Oh,
this.
okay.
Just to say that. But he, what's interesting though is he's a lefty, but he plays guitar. But he plays guitar like a righty, which I thought was
Yeah.
fucking insane.
Mhm.
I don't know how he did that.
So he doesn't play it like Jimi Hendrix style? Because Jimi Hendrix was
learn
No,
to be
no,
ambidextrous.
he's left-handed, but
I mean, it's
Yeah,
a
I've
lot
been
of
trained
work.
not
myself.
though. Like he can't write with both hands, but he can play guitar as a righty though. It doesn't make that's how he plays guitar.
Interesting.
Mainly, he holds it like a righty. Doesn't make any sense to me. It blew
Maybe
my mind
when he
I
was
found that
learning,
out.
maybe he just thought all people play guitar right-handed like that, and he just figured that's the way he had to do it too.
Yeah, I'm sure, and it's probably like it was easier for him to get his hands on a righty guitar. That's what you
Yeah,
find
yeah.
most of the time. It still blew my mind, dude. I couldn't believe that.
I've been trying to train myself to be ambidextrous for like the last few years. I've been using my left hand
Oh,
for
yeah?
like a bunch of stuff. It's really weird. And like when you first start doing it, everything just feels really, really weird.
Yeah.
Probably the like most bizarre one is like brushing your teeth with your left hand.
Oh
It's
my god.
really
Yeah.
weird, dude. Like you would think it would
Oh,
be
I
like, oh
bet.
yeah, totally fine, but it's like all of a sudden like the proportions of your mouth seem all weird and stuff. It's like it's really crazy.
And
like
you feel
how
like
much
you're gonna
muscle
stab
memory you
yourself
have
in
for
the
stuff.
mouth with your toothbrush somehow because you don't know what the fuck
Yeah.
you're doing. Because I was actually on the same
Right.
kind of kick. I was trying to teach myself to write and like brush my teeth left-handed just for the hell of it and see if I could do it. And I could write decently, but brushing my teeth was like I felt like a fucking alien in a man suit.
Yeah, it's so weird. The big one for me is I've been trying to draw left-handed because I
Ooh.
don't know how to draw, and so I was like, well, if I'm gonna learn how to draw and I don't already know how to draw with either hand, I might as well start with the left, and just have that be a thing that I just do left-handed.
Caesar, why do you hate yourself?
Yeah.
Well, here, the thing is, it's not that weird. Like because I don't know how to write, I don't know how to draw with my right hand. There was never a point where it felt like I was doing it wrong. Like it just felt like I wasn't good.
Yeah. That makes
And
sense.
so now it feels more natural for me to draw with my left hand than with my right, just because I've gotten more used to it. I mean, I'm still not good, but it's better.
The real
certainly.
test will come when you start shaving with your left hand, dude.
Rest in peace,
Oh yeah, I've
Caesar.
done it. It's not hard.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Dude. I don't shave with a blade. Like I use a beard trimmer. Like I don't have
Yeah.
a clean shave, but I
Mhm.
couldn't even imagine like trying to fucking use a blade with my left hand.
Yeah, I
dude.
usually clean shave for No Shave November, but I'm not doing that this year
Mm.
because my cousin's wedding is in like a week, and I don't want
Ah.
to show up all like
Yeah,
a little
right.
weird stubbliness.
I mean, I
It's
hope you're not
it's
doing No
on.
Nut November then either, because all those pretty ladies at the wedding might set you off.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I've been thinking about it, but
You'll be walking
I
around
don't know
funny.
if I'm feeling it this year. I do usually do November. I find it's nice to take a break, but not sure if I'm feeling it this year.
Yeah, I did it once, and it feels like that's enough for one lifetime. I'm not gonna gain anything from further repetitions of it.
Yeah.
Now, further repetitions of masturbation, on the other hand.
Mm-hmm. Very beneficial. Good for your prostate.
Yeah. Exactly. I've never done that. Like, I've never fucking cut myself off, dude. No way. Like, I don't know, dude. Like, what the fuck is the point? Unless you have a problem.
It's like
with something.
Seinfeld. You just want to be master of your domain for a little while.
Master of your domain. Yeah, exactly.
Have
you seen that episode of Seinfeld?
Yeah.
No.
You have to watch it, dude. It's fucking
haven't.
hilarious.
I'm sure it is.
Oh man. Yeah, I think it's just meant to be like a self-control thing.
Yeah.
And it kind of is like for like the first week, but then after that you're just like, whatever.
Yeah, it gets old fast.
I'm sure.
Oh man. So we've been going for like an hour and a half almost.
Nah.
Right.
How much do we want to record? Because
I mean, I'm feeling.
we've bounced around.
I feel like I'll probably.
Man, we bounced
kick
around
off
for a lot
soon.
of weird fucking topics. Okay. Yeah, because I'm thinking about, I'm just like looking back on what we've done so far, and it's like it's been a bit of a weird one. We've talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We talked about like BlizzCon, and we talked about memes, and we talked about politics, and we've talked about No Nut November, and it's like just all over the place.
Yeah,
But honestly, man, it hasn't even felt like that though, just because of the way the conversation has flowed. Like, it's not like we just decided,
Yeah.
oh well, let's just talk about memes now. Like, one thing kind of led from the last, which I definitely like a lot more than going in with like, well, we're gonna discuss, like A topic and then B topic after that. It's more free flowing. It's more fun to listen to, I believe.
Yeah. That's why I didn't necessarily bring any like topics. Although I think in the future, like if there is something that you want to talk about, like if something happens and you're like, oh, like I think that would be fine.
Yeah, because especially
for the most part,
we've been doing this an hour and a half now, and that's a lot of time to fill. So even if we just scratch down like 2 or 3 ideas, like whenever they pop into our head, I'm sure we could fit most of what we all want to talk about into an episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Because plus you don't want to be like, oh well, we're going to talk about like Trump for the next 2 hours. That would be a little less fulfilling.
I mean, I'm surprised we actually did get into the politics stuff, because that's not something that we usually talk about.
No. Especially me, dude. I'm like, I don't really follow politics at all, so I don't have much to contribute on that topic.
You should, man. It's interesting.
No, you should.
I know, like I
you'll
should,
feel
but
bad
I
all
just,
the time.
I don't know. I just don't give like enough of a shit to like sit down and fucking look stuff up.
I remember a good
it's
quote
hard.
about that though.
You
Somebody
know?
said, "You may not give a shit about politics, but your landlord does. Your lawmakers do. Basically, the people that have power over you care, and when they influence that, it makes your life worse."
The interesting thing to me about politics, like the reason that I follow it, and I think that the thing that makes it worth following, is that it is basically the only thing that actually matters. Like when you work, like of all the conversations and things that you can think about, most of it kind of doesn't matter. Like we're talking about BlizzCon, really, who cares? Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about politics, it's like actually that is something that does have a material impact on literally every single person ever. Like it is the one thing that does matter. And I find it interesting for that reason.
On the other hand, though, I could definitely see why some people wouldn't be interested. I mean, because it does feel like there's a high bar to clear to really, quote, get into politics.
It's very complicated.
You have to know just so much of, I don't want to say backstory, but you do know what I mean if I say
complicated.
that. Yeah, it's kind of like math.
Yeah.
You can't learn the next thing unless you know the thing before it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I follow politics quite closely, and there's so much that I still don't get. Like, you could it's so much. Like, you literally could study politics.
And outside of American politics, I know almost nothing about the rest of the world, and even then, I feel so ignorant when I think about that.
I mean, but you shouldn't, because the thing is, if you want to try to get like a full global picture of politics, you can't. Like, it's impossible. There's literally too much going on. Like,
too
it's
many
just too complicated.
And too many people.
Exactly, dude. It's so absurd to me whenever I try to like think about it, because every single country has all of these different relationships going everywhere, and it's like all of the trade agreements and the military agreements, and like it's insane, dude.
It really makes you realize how big the world really is, though. Because when you think of how many people on planet Earth, 7 billion, it's kind of just a number. It sounds like a lot, but when you really think about everybody's individual daily lives and what they do for a living and what the countries they live in are like and what their politics are, it really gives you a true sense of the world.
I really cannot even picture it. Like, I try all the time, and I cannot even imagine it. It's so much. Like, there's just so many people. Like, have you guys seen the pictures of like the protests in Hong Kong and stuff?
Yeah, the streets are
like
just
the
shoulder
streets
to shoulder
are
packed,
filled with people, and that's like those protests are like a couple million people, and it's like a parade down a street that lasts for fucking hours, and it's like that is nothing compared to how many people there are in the world.
And the most impressive thing about those protests to me, it's a little off topic, but the videos where you would see an ambulance trying to get through the protest, and every single person would calmly move off to the side and let that ambulance pass, and then reform their group. And it's amazing how people can work together like that without a single word passed between them. But the scale of the world is just absolutely insane, especially when you consider how literally every second there's thousands and thousands of new people being born. It's mind-boggling.
It blows my mind in every direction, because like I can't even get a scale of how big the world is.
Yeah.
Like, just when I try to think about like distance, it's ridiculous to me. Like there's a stat of like you could fit the whole world's population into like Texas.
Oh my God, really?
Like pretty comfortably in like the population density of like a big city.
Nah.
And it's like that is impressive, but holy shit, how fucking big is Texas? Are you kidding me?
Right?
Like, what? How is that possible? Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, I try as hard as I can to like have a scale of what it is that's going on around me, but it's too big. Like,
the one thing
it's just the magnitude
that actually helped me get a scale on those numbers. It was a meme actually. It described the difference between millionaires and billionaires. If you have a million seconds, that's last week, and if you have a billion seconds, that's 1988. And that really helped put it into perspective how big a billion is, because I always thought, without thinking about it too deeply, a billion was just, a few million. It doesn't really sound that different. But the reality of it is, it's very different.
Yeah. I mean, it's this constant barrier that I find of like the difference between knowing something and like understanding it. Do you know what I mean? Because like I know I know how much a billion is, right?
Nah.
Like I can say it. I can write. I've worked enough with numbers to know like the magnitude of these kinds of things. But when I try to like in my mind be like, okay, let me try to picture like a billion people, it's like I can't even think about like what, like I can't even get like a ballpark of like how much space that would take.
Yeah, because even if you have a mental picture of a giant group of people, for one, you're not going to know exactly how many people are in that mental picture. It's just a giant mass of people. You don't know if it's a billion or not.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you think about like a stadium full of people is a fucking shitload of people. And it's like in numbers wise, it's not that many. Like you can fit like 50,000 people in like a fucking gigantic stadium, and that's nothing. Like
there's actually
even the number of people in like one city, because I live outside of Bogota, you guys know this.
Nah.
And there's like 7 or 8 million people who live in the city, and that is so many people that I cannot even comprehend it. Like, oh man, it's ridiculous, because like sometimes when I'm in the city, I think about it, because it's like I'll be out in the street and there'll be like just a shitload of people everywhere on the street doing whatever it is that they're doing. Everybody's just going in different directions, living their own life. And it's looking at all those people being like, this is happening in every street of this city, and every single one of these buildings is packed with people from the fucking ground all the way up, and it's like fucking ants. It's crazy.
Yeah, dude.
That's my favorite part of like going to New York, though. Like every time I go there, I'm just astounded by how much life is around me. Even trying to walk through the streets,
I would love to go
just
to New York.
Shoulder to shoulder. You can barely move, and unless you're constantly going with the flow, you're gonna get trampled. And every direction you look, there's skyscrapers, there's massive apartment buildings. Under you, there's the subway systems and basements and shopping complexes.
Yeah.
It's just, it feels like I don't know how to put it into words. It's just there's just so much life and activity.
Yeah, I was just there like a few months ago, and like I was in like just the Chinatown area, and just dude, it's such like a small area, but with like a bunch of little side streets and shit. With Kaya, we were there.
Yeah.
Dude, there were so many goddamn people. It was fucking insane. Just packed on those tiny little streets, dude, walking around and shit. It was
every single one of those people has
nuts.
their own life, their own dreams, their own hopes, fears, memories. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, the scale of civilization is really something to be marveled at, especially when you think about how quickly it's all happened.
And the fact that it
like
keeps
if you
working.
think back, and the fact that it keeps working and keeps going, like the fact that it works at all is absurd. But when you think about the fact that like 100,000 years ago, literally, like if you think about the people in your neighborhood, those were like all of the people that you would ever meet in your life. That would be like your tribe. And that's it. That's everybody that you've ever known. And you would just live like you just like live.
You wouldn't know
sleep
any
on the
different,
ground.
yeah.
You go out and you'd hunt and you'd cook on an open fire, and that would be it. And now it's like it's so quickly becomes so complicated as to be fucking mind blowing. And I mean it's interesting to me because it feels so slow from just your life. Like it feels like nothing changes from one day to the next. You know what I mean? Like today is basically the same as it was yesterday, and tomorrow will be basically the same. But on the scale of like a civilization, it's happening at like a breakneck pace. And if you think about like where is humanity going to be in like 20, 30 years, it's like we'll probably have like AI by then, like legit AI by then, and that's crazy. Like all of the things that could happen in like the next few decades is like as much as we've accomplished in the past couple hundred years, which is as much as we had accomplished in the past couple thousand years. And it's like fucking hell, man, this is like it's just going out of control.
That actually too kind of makes me start thinking about what we were talking about before, how we were talking about how internet shapes culture and what's ableist, what's sexist, what's racist. Like you were saying, back maybe 100, 200 years ago when you were in a neighborhood and that's all the people you would know, those are the only people you would get your ideas from and your culture from and just basically how you live your life. But now that the internet's a thing, now that the world is so connected so quickly, everything you say, there's somebody else out there that can contribute to that or critique it or just have something to say about it. And I think that's where a lot of what we were talking about comes from, that layer of irony and self-defense when it comes to those shitty attitudes. It's because there's just so many people in the world now, and there's so many opinions, and there's just so much going on that you constantly feel like, maybe not that you have to defend yourself, but that your ideas are under attack and they can always be changed. And that wasn't the case 100,000 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a lot more rambling than I intended it to be, but I hope you kind of got like a sense of the point.
Yeah, well, like, even speaking onto that, couple things. On the perception of time and things speeding up and just technology progressing at an infinite rate and all that good stuff. I was sitting at a dinner table and I was talking to my great aunt who's a vegetarian, and we were talking about mushrooms and trees and the way plants communicate. And I brought up the hypothetical of imagining your perspective as a tree, how fast things move around us, or how things fast would move around you, and how your perception of that would shapes your decision making. So
I mean, there's not a lot of decisions that you need to make as a tree, but I understand what you're saying.
As a tree, yeah, you kind of just chill.
Yeah. But as we get older, everything begins to speed up, because it's like when you're 1 year old, 1 year's the entirety of your life. When you're 90 years old, 1 year's the 90th of your life, something like that. So your actual perception of things tends to speed up. I wonder how that plays into I guess, for lack of better phrasing, late-term rationality. Because if you feel like everything's moving so fast and nothing's taking time to really adjust, at least that's your perception of it, that it's going to impact your decision making.
I guess that's fair, because if I was imagining somebody that's like a baby boomer that's like 50, 60 years old, and they grew up around people with certain racist attitudes, and for the majority of their life, maybe it wasn't okay, but that was just the norm. They could get away with it. And now all of a sudden, like the last 5, 10, 20 years, things have changed so quickly, the attitudes have shifted, and now they're under attack for what their beliefs have always been. Like you said, this part of their life is only a small section of their life compared to everything they've lived before with those attitudes that they've held for so long. So now that they're changing so fast, it's almost impossible for them to adjust.
That's why people who are kind of older and conservative tend to use the argument of the world's going crazy, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it all changes. So I mean, I think it's hard because on the scale of social progress, the way that culture moves and the speed at which culture moves means that you have to constantly be challenging yourself.
Yeah.
Challenging yourself and what you believe and what you are all right with and how you see the world. Like, you have to constantly be reinventing and updating that if you're gonna stay current with the way that the world is changing. Because I think we were talking about this the other day, a couple of weeks ago. There's a tendency for older people to be more conservative, but that doesn't necessarily because you change into a more conservative person as you grow older, but just there just comes a point where you're just locked in what you believe, and the world just moves on without you. And so the ideas that you have that were once maybe more progressive or maybe more central have now, by comparison to the shift in culture, become relatively more conservative.
That kind of makes me think of another point, too. So, for a lot of these people's lives, if you take, the LGBT movement, for example, they've known about homosexuality and they've known about gay people, and maybe they accepted it, maybe they didn't, but that was all they knew about it for the longest time. And now, I would say in, the last 10 years, there's been just so much more added to what falls under that umbrella, because now you would have transgenders, you have, I forget the word.
Non-binary.
Yeah, non-binary, all that stuff that's suddenly just been added to it, and now they probably feel like they have no clue what's going on, and there's just... I had an idea on how to phrase this, but it's just totally slipped my mind. It's taking a lot of extremes for them are being thrown at them all at once that they have to adjust to, even when they probably didn't adjust to the first one in the first place.
And you have to remember when you're talking about these kinds of things that back when baby boomers and stuff were younger, when they were learning about this stuff, they first probably heard about things like homosexuality as oh, this is a mental disease that people can have. That is how that idea entered their mind in the first place.
Yeah.
And so in the course of a few decades to have it go from oh no, these people are mentally ill, we just all know that, to oh no, this is actually all right, to no, this is a subsection of this actually much larger group of people with all these things. Yeah. It's you have to constantly be updating the things that you think that you know and the things that you were taught about the world.
Yeah, I feel
if you
like
get
that
set
definitely
into any
kind of
point,
sums up what I was trying to say a little bit better. Thank you for that.
It's hard, man.
Well, and that too, I have to wonder if baby boomers have spent so much time of their lives just working and trying to survive that I would imagine that they don't even really have the time to try to keep up with how the world is changing so much.
Yeah. I mean,
do you think they need to?
That's a good point too.
I mean, everybody needs to. Everybody. It's part of your responsibility as a human being is to be a part of the world, right?
Well, what Kaya just said made me think I don't know if maybe he was asking us if we think they need to, but from their perspective, they probably don't think that they need to. They're getting along just fine, so why should they really have to change their whole belief system?
Yeah.
Especially if the argument goes, as we progress, we tend to become more progressive, moving former progressive thoughts to the conservative spectrum. Why ought older generations change their entire viewpoint in the eyes of something in their eyes what could be like a fringe movement, right? Like they could like I think this actually kind of bites onto what we're talking about like in the beginning when it's like where do you draw the line between all this input and actually making your own decisions, right? So I think it's almost kind of like I think it's a necessary thing. I think you need that conservative pushback to the progressive tide, if that makes sense, because while I personally want to see things move more progressive over time and maybe a little quicker than things are moving now, I don't think it needs. I think there needs to be some kind of check. I don't think the conservative ideals as they stand now are a good one, because it seems that a lot of their arguments tend to just fall flat on their face most of the time.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Everything needs a check, because it's easy for one group, if left alone, to just get more and more extreme or more and more out of touch. So everything needs a counterbalance to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a feedback loop kind of thing. But I don't know to what extent I agree that there does need to be that that pushback, because I think that almost is like it's like a self-feeding thing all on its own. Is like at a certain point you start to feel like things are moving too quickly for you, and that's kind of I think where this push to be like, hey, now let's not all be so hasty and start giving rights to the AI and stuff. And it's like, well, but if they deserve rights, surely we should do that as quickly as possible, right? Like, it's difficult to know where to draw the line, or if a line should even be drawn. When it comes to something like social progress, I mean, you want to treat everybody reasonably and in the way that they want to be treated. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going with this, but that's the basic idea.
I think I kind of get the gist of what you're saying. I just kind of I don't really know if I can fully justify my position, to be perfectly honest. I don't think I've put enough thought into it. But just kind of from where I stand now, if I think that if there isn't a kind of I guess opposition to a movement, like it's like if you're thirsty, water is great.
Yes.
But if you're drowning, water's not so great.
Right.
And fuck, I don't even know where I'm really going with this.
I kind of think that that's a good point of comparison, and then the question is like, well, at what point would you ever have some people thinking that, like, the example of a single person is perhaps not super conductive to this, but like, have disagreement about whether you're thirsty or whether you're drowning. It's like, surely it must actually be one or the other.
The word disagreement, though, that actually just made me think of a good point, is that I think disagreement and debate is really healthy to anything. That's kind of why another party is a really important thing to have, because if somebody has an idea and somebody else challenges that forces the person with the idea to refine why they believe in it and why they want that. So I think it's not so much being scared of things changing too quickly for me. I think it's just personally that I think having a check and a balance helps foster, healthy, creative progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if like especially when it comes to things that there are no real easy answers to, like
everything.
Like there's, well, yes, but to maybe give it more direction, morals is a really good one. There are people who argue that there is no such thing as morality, which I kind of lean towards, but I'm not entirely convinced by. there are people who argue we are inherently moral creatures, and morality is a fundamental function of the universe, which is not something I personally agree with. I think it's a little too out there.
But yeah, I mean, having debate helps you to refine these positions.
So if everyone agrees, there's no debate, there's no progress, and progressive movements don't exist.
It's kind of like Bernie being in the presidential race. Maybe he wins, maybe he doesn't, but you can see that there's been a clear shift from the 2016 election, that the Democrats have gotten obviously a little more liberal, a little more open to those progressive policies, because his voice was in the mix and he was able to challenge that.
Isn't that called like the Overton window or something like that?
The Overton window is the Overton window is the like spectrum of ideas that you discuss within like a society, right? From like the right wing to the left wing. And the idea is that by bringing these ideas into discussion, like Bernie's been doing with things like Medicare for all and all that stuff, like that didn't used to be what the debate was about in the United States. It used to be a little bit more narrow than that on the left side. But him introducing that rhetoric during the 2016 run and everything leading up to it means that he is open. He's widened that Overton window to now include that, and so now you get during debates, everybody now has an opinion on this.
Nah.
Mm-hmm.
So it shifts the discussion into a different place, and that's an example of the type of thing that Republicans are very good at, is using their own rhetoric to constantly shift the Overton window further and further to the right, to the point where a lot of the things that you're seeing
shifting the goalpost, right? To put it in layman's terms.
Well, shifting the goalpost.
Moving the goalpost.
Yeah, moving the goalpost is a different thing. That's like when you're having a debate with somebody and you're like, oh well, I believe this thing, and you say to me like, oh well, I have this example that proves that thing is wrong, and then I go, well, no. What I meant was to say this thing instead. Like that's moving the goalpost. Okay. It's like you haven't quite scored that point against me. I'm just going to change what it is that I was I'm going to change now what I was saying then to make you not have won that argument against me.
Gotcha.
It's live action.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I like that.
Exactly. Very concise way of explaining that.
Okay, so not related at all, but my hands are doing this weird thing where they're cold, so I put them in my pockets, and then they get warm, and they've been sweating, but they're also cold, but now they're pruny because they've been sweating so much.
Yes.
Really topical. Glad I got to let you guys know what's going on with my hands.
Actually, I love dudes that have grandma hands.
Come over here, dude. I'll hold your head.
You like to make me a sweater?
Let me get a good look at you. Let me get it. Well, I don't do that.
You remind me of my grandson.
Oh, man. Yo, what about handshakes when the other guy's hands are sweaty, dude? Hell yeah. Love that.
Ooh. Yeah, it's like immediately.
Dude, maintain eye contact the whole time.
I don't care.
What about handshakes where they go to grab your hand, but they like cup their hand weirdly, and you can't get a good like normal handshake grip? You have to like grab the middle of their hand,
and the whole time you feel like you're just not good at being a human being. Like, why can't I hold this other person's hand correctly?
And honestly, I know it's their fault. It's web to web. You just go web to web. It's not hard. Why are you curling your hand?
Another thing is too, like when you don't know if they're going for a handshake or if they're doing that thing where they grab your hand and then you kind of like lock them together, and you know what I'm saying? That shit. When you don't know when they're doing that at first.
Oh yeah,
dude.
Hey bro.
Yeah. I am so white.
I fucked that up so many times, man.
I actually say, dude, like I work in a warehouse. That is, a lot of Spanish kids in there. It's cool, but they like sometimes like when they go to like do that with me. Sometimes like I still don't know if they're trying to shake my hand or not, and then I will just declare like, dude, I'm sorry, I'm very white. Like it just happens to me.
And because you've never had like the chance to do it right, you're gonna fuck it up every single time from now on. You're gonna need like a fucking handshake tutorial from one of those dudes.
What you have to do is you have to initiate.
Yeah, when I
have to go for the handshake and then you do the shift.
Right.
And they'll follow through because they have the experience.
Well, hold on. No, there's going to be that's going to throw him for a loop because they're going to look at this white kid and be like, "Wait a minute, is he going for a handshake or is he trying to be like us?"
Yes, but now you flip the tables over.
They got that smoothness, you know. The moment they feel the change, they're like, "I know where this is going. I've done this a million times."
It's like that one video of Bernie. He's at some kind of like he's on stage somewhere and there's like and he's shaking everybody's hand and one dude just goes in for the fucking the bro shake and he just instantly gets it.
I love that GIF, dude. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's also that one of Snoop, the fucking classic, where like they changed it up at the last second. Yeah, dude.
Oh yeah, where he's talking with like Bill Maher.
Oh,
yeah.
Man. I know, right?
Well, we've been going for almost 2 hours, guys.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
time
I think I'm actually gonna be heading off.
Yeah,
minutes.
I was gonna say, do you guys have anything more that you'd like to say, or
feels like a pretty natural stopping
should we?
No, I think we
call it here. Yeah, sounds good to me. It does occur to me that at no point.
Oh my God, we didn't do that.
We introduce ourselves, but
dude, we're professionals.
0, dude. This is the prequel. We'll introduce ourselves later.
Oh, that's so funny, dude.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, this is.
Yeah, we straight up just started
we're
talking.
Mystique for later.
Yeah.
You know what we could do though? We could just record it all right now and then just splice it in at the beginning
because it doesn't matter. But we should do it in the most awkward way possible, so it sounds like
fuck
we
with the audio levels
fact.
too, so you know it was added in afterwards.
Yeah, like put a little distortion on or something.
Yeah,
just sound like it was recorded on like a different day.
Be like, hello and welcome to the Squid Podcast. My name is Mike, and then I just start talking like I normally do.
Okay, so let's quickly just go ahead and give our names in case this ever does end up being something that someone ever listens to.
Mike.
So hi, I'm Cesar. And then you guys.
I am Vinny. I don't know what to do with my hands.
I'm Kaya.
And I'm Mike.
All right, we did it. We did a podcast.
Yay!
Congratulations, guys. And you guys want to play Rocket League or something?
And I gotta say, my favorite member of this podcast is Vinny. I don't know what to do with my hands.